Maybe I shouldn't do a peace greeting for this one either. On YouTube, there's a man named Brian Diesel. That's his YouTube name. Brian Diesel put out a video 5 days ago, and its title is Black Women, My Honest Take. Now, he has more subscribers than I do. He has fewer views than one of my normal videos would have gotten in the same length of time. In this video, he said that he can date sisters. He can date non-sisters. But that it's just plain easier. Sisters will make it just plain easier for them to break up. Or make it harder for them to date in the first place, either one. And that non-sisters will simply be easier to date and to stay with. And one of the things he said was that if he's going to look in his peer group in a comparable age, they're pretty much all single mothers unless they're just so unattractive there was no way they're even getting any. That's what he said. Mind you, he's been homeless for about a year. But what he was talking about was his experiences from before even that point. That was made pretty clear. But this other YouTuber named Portia Kay decided she's going to try to first talk to him and then she's going to really go in on him. First, it's, I feel like you've dealt with a lot of pain this past year by losing everything and you're trying to find somebody to blame. But when you heal, you will realize that black women were not the reason you were in this situation. I don't think you should be dating anybody, period. Black or white. Laughing emoji. But that is my opinion. Heart, shoulder shrug. He says, I hear you. Really, I'm literally just sharing my experience. Now, some brothers came to his defense and against her. But T. Jizzle, after a little back and forth with Portia Kay, pointed out rightly. But now granted, his spelling left a bit to be desired himself in punctuation, but it was still better than hers. He writes, but you don't represent, he's writing in response to Portia Kay. But you don't represent the black African community, right? You just support the black women, whereas a man sees the black community as a whole, not just his gender. So please, GTFO here, while we discuss what's going on in this man thit, you wouldn't understand, little girl. Just when your message is on point and as sharp as this one was, it's actually better to spell and punctuate it correctly. Because on a subconscious level, people will not be able to help but take it more seriously. It's not voluntary and it's not even conscious. It's subconscious and it's involuntary. And there's not much they can say. Portia Kay said in another comment altogether, how is dating a black woman dating down? So because she has children, it has been sexual, that makes them below you, but you're the one that's homeless, living in shelters. How can you say that so audaciously knowing damn well you are currently in a position in your life where you also have nothing to offer? Would that not be dating down on her part as well? Like this is just a lot of self-hatred and I'm praying you find some healing. I really do. He writes back 5:40. Let you listen to what he says at 5:40. Hold on.
And I'm sorry, but I have standards. And I'm 33 going on 34. I've gone all the way up into this point of my life without having kids so that I could prosper in life. And it's nothing personal to those of y'all that do have kids, because honestly, one thing that's really big on the internet is bashing single mothers. I'm not in the business of doing that. I appreciate single mothers for who they are. I've tried dating them before as well, but it's just a simple fact of I set standards for myself. I restricted myself growing up. I made decisions so that I wouldn't have kids. I can't take on someone else's kids. And unfortunately, that disqualifies most of the attractive black women that I meet.
I Just Make Comments is the name of a YouTuber wrote out, "Get out your feelings. As a black male, everything he stated is facts." Portia Kay then says, actually, Roberto Mitchell said, "Bro, you talking about women in general, fool." And I think in the West that's true. Portia Kay then says, and that's the last thing she says so far, "Also, a black man deciding not to stay in their own child's life has nothing to do with the women. And statistically, black men are known for doing this. That is completely out of the control of the woman. And statistically, it's show. This is a mistake that my students, my Bedouin students here make. It's, and then they use a basic form verb. Not the verb 3 that can also be used as an adjective, the past participle. Like it's shown or it's known. No, she said it's show that black women are the most disrespected, most looked down upon of all races. Black women are a race and gender. She overlooked that. She goes on to say, it's incredibly ignorant for you to just generalize like this. Not only is it ignorant, but harmful. There's no women out there that's purposely trying to have fatherless children. Oh, really? There's no woman out there that's purpose. Okay, all right. Hold on a second. That is why I'm such a ucking fast hole right there. See, look, I can't even play what I normally play. This is straight war here. This is what I was talking to y'all about. This gender war is largely a few things all lumped in together. Number one, misinformation. Lying about what they want from men and lying about what kind of men they want. That's number one. Lying about who they're going to be with. Lying about what they tolerated from other men and what they haven't tolerated from other men. And then, of course, the genetic elimination coupled with the willingness to objectify, mostly non-sexually, the majority of men, mainly financially, so that they can afford to turn around and just sexually objectify the few men that they do want, and then we're supposed to step in and raise their kids, and she's gonna sit up and lie and say, ain't a single woman out here looking to have fatherless kids. She's out her father-mucking mind. I know what's some. And as we've seen already, Portia Kay, I'm talking to you, B-word, the stats are in. How is it that you got so few black men who even have children and they're not married to the mothers? Despite the fact that you all file for 80% of divorces, and they say that in a romantic relationship, men are equally as likely to break up as women outside of a marriage. I don't even think that's the truth. I don't have experience with that, and neither do my friends. Usually, romantically speaking, they get left. It's just a narrower margin than it is when it comes to marriages and divorces. But that narrow margin is still a margin in which it's usually the women that do the leaving because they don't have to go out and get a man. So you lying, Portia Kay. Now, maybe you just never heard the stats. And if that's the case, I stand corrected about you lying. But now I'm telling you, Portia Kay, you got a whole new world opened up to you right now at this point. If you ain't heard about Kevin Samuels, check him out. Because he's actually telling the truth right now. He also knows the stats. If you ain't heard about Edward Anderson, wake up and find out about, go to his channel. Brian Diesel, if you ain't heard about him, you might want to either, because this will shut Portia Kay all the way the fuck. Because she ain't got no business even answering you. You were right, she was wrong. And let me tell something to both of you. You, Mr. Diesel, you, Mrs. Portia Kay. I don't give a guck if that man is homeless or living in his mother's basement. He still is more valuable than you are. Simply because he didn't say nothing about dating while he's homeless. He was talking about beforehand. He's only been homeless a year. That man's in his 30s. He made decisions so that he would not have children outside of wedlock. And now he can't find somebody that didn't make the same kind of decisions anywhere close to his age. No, let me tell you what he did wrong, Portia Kay. It wasn't becoming homeless. I've lived in America before. It would have happened to me if I hadn't had some support from the outside looking in. And truth be told, And I would sit up and say, well, you know, my first American wife, from whom I have a bunch of stressful memories, she also helped me out. There were times she helped me out, but then I look back on it, I realized that I wouldn't have been in those tight scenarios if I had avoided her country behind in the first place. And I don't even hate her. She's not nearly as bad as the others, to be honest with you. I mean, all the other options out there to marry were far worse than her. And this is one of the things about which my mother and I had a terrible, well, not a terrible, but about which we've had a serious argument. You should have never married her. Yeah, Mom, let me tell you, all the rest of them were far worse. How was I supposed to know? Because your friends didn't tell their daughters any common sense. Which is why your friends were asking you later on, years later, are your sons single? Because my daughters always want only pro football players and rappers. Or just street thugs. And we talking about my mother's friends, like my mother, they ain't street like that. They lived in nice areas. Matter of fact, this conversation happened in one of the more expensive areas of New Orleans. And I think about 2000, maybe 1999 or 2000, when this main conversation happened. She was visiting friends that live in New Orleans, and they were asking her because their daughters, who came from New Orleans East and other expensive parts of the city at that time, wanted guys that grew up nothing like them. And they were hoping maybe they could avail themselves of my brother and me to sort of steer them back into a better decision. And they didn't understand. Their daughters had already said no when we hadn't even approached them. The answer was no without us even trying. Portia Kay, you belong, and I'm saying this as a man that comes from black women. And I love my mother and grandmothers as much as anyone else, and I love my daughters as much as any father would. I'm still saying to you, you come from the second worst group of women on the planet. The Western white woman is the worst, because she taught y'all all this stuff, but you all bought it hook, line, and sinker. And truth is, one of the reasons why they're a little bit more polite about this stuff, which is why they're able to deceive more brothers, is largely because they don't really believe this stuff themselves. No, you all believe it. It makes you more sincere, but by the same token, it makes you more sincere. You believe it, but it also makes you more sincere in your presentation from day one. So you be running men off from the very start with your high standards and your refusals to meet hardly any other standards, Portia Kay. Living in America, I can honestly tell you, I lived there. I left because of stuff like this. I left because I didn't want to wind up like Brian Diesel. And you take COVID and how it's affected many jobs, and that man's trying. And I can tell you, I mean, certainly 7 years ago when I lived in the States, it was bad. Hardly anybody wanted to help out even heterosexual white men. They barely wanted to help them out. They didn't have it necessarily that easy, except for family members that loved them and maybe a few close friends that were doing okay. They could still be doing fine for the most part. But I mean, come on now, you a heterosexual black man? No, I lived in Atlanta, so-called black Mecca. And I saw the discrimination from black women sometimes when it came to certain jobs. I know what he's talking about, and I know it's real, and I know it's true, because I dealt with that. Even a friend of mine, a lady attorney, I worked for her for a while. She had this expectation that you could just alpha your way through situations that don't have an answer to them. Take this down to this government office. You get there, the government office is closed. They done moved somewhere else. Okay, they done moved. Do you have the new address? Look, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't tell me they moved. Don't tell me they closed. I sent you to the right place. No, the F you didn't. She damn near lost every employee she had because of this mess. She lost her husband, another friend of mine, a closer friend of mine. Ironically, she's a family law attorney. She couldn't turn that stuff off when she got home. Ran him smooth, the uck off, and he still didn't file for divorce. She did. So anecdotally or statistically, it's the same thing. Not only is that white society in which you all live hard on heterosexual black men, probably ain't that much easier on the GAY ones, but I'll let them tell their story. But on a hetero black man, no, absolutely not. And I'm racially ambiguous looking. Sisters wouldn't go easy on me when they would realize I was a blood. And I don't mean a Damu or a Pyro either when I say a blood. I'm talking about what they used to say in the 1970s, black men. Now, I'm hearing, from what I'm understanding, Portia Kay, I may no longer be considered black after a while. That might happen. But for all practical purposes, I've been black and white America. And I face this despite some so-called light-skinned privilege, which might explain why a lot of sisters were so hard on me in the workplace. Even the light-skinned ones themselves. 2005, I got this job, office job, and I can honestly say the sisters in there, they held us down. There was I remember this one white lady, I can't remember her name, otherwise I'd say it, because I don't fiverguck about bad bitch. And no, I didn't cuss just now. Yeah, I got more than smoke today, Miss Kay. I got fire. And see, I remember this white chick, she running around here trying to get all the brothers fired. There wasn't but 3 of us in there. One of them had been there so long, he darn near helped build the company. She really couldn't do much to him. So all the other ones of us that came in, she started trying to get us fired. And the funny thing is, my wife, who never met her, believed her sides of every story. Like I'm just an irresponsible ninja. I just straight told my wife, look, listen, I'm gonna let you know right off the bat, I'm still looking for the gigs because we do have someone that's trying to get the bros fired. Later on, my wife writes an email to me, you're failing, you're messing up. Why would she want to do this to you? I don't know, B word. Turns out it was racial. She was going to do the bros first. And it was the sisters that held us down. And that was the last time I saw that sort of solidarity in a corporate setting. The next time I saw it was in an educational setting. There was a sister professor when I was training to become a teacher that really did try to hold me down. And I wish I could pay her back. It stopped after that. When I was a student teacher in that same program, I went to one of the high schools and I chose for my teaching teacher, if you will, I chose for that role one of the teachers at the high school. There was an African-American sister and she was teaching history right up my alley. I'm looking at her like, you know, my pro-black states, I'm looking at her like the mother of humanity. Not perfect, not at all, but the mother of humanity, holding it down. Single mom and grandmom doing her best and also teaching. So I grabbed on her. I said, I'm going to learn at her feet, Lord willing. I would follow her directions to the T and she would have an issue with it. Turned out she was breaking rules trying to set me up so I wouldn't get through the program. And then at that point, it was a white lesbian professor that was overseeing my student teaching that broke the news to me. She and her assistant teacher for the special ed kids, both single moms, single black moms, and you're a heterosexual black man who's married, they're looking at you like, what the hell are you doing teaching? I've dealt with this before. She told me this. She said, Mr. Mind, I've dealt with this before. I know what this is. That's why they were never supposed to leave you in the classroom alone in the first place, and they've been doing it a lot, haven't they? And I had to be like, you know what? Yeah, that's right, they have been. How did you know? She said, because they setting you up. And she even said to me, look, I know you pro-black, and you should be. But you got to understand, a white lesbian professor telling me this, and I let it go in one ear and out the other. But she said, you got to understand, everybody black ain't pro-you. Now, I want you to get a fair shake. And you come into this ready to teach and you mean well. So I want you to get a fair shake. You trying to do your job, they slipped up. I'm not going to let that be the reason that you don't make it through this program with the right marks. But what I'm not going to do is sit up here she was pretty much saying, I'm not going to lie to you about this either. And she knew she's a white professor. I had no reason to take her word for it as a pro-black man, but we worked together well. And she said, don't take my word for it. You'll see it, but be prepared. That's what she told me. Messed up thing is I went back home to my hometown. I was visiting my hometown later on that summer when I finally did pass. And I remember my dad, I remember telling my dad, yo, Pop, you face this at work? Because your sister was telling you, when your sister became a doctor, she was telling you about how she got sick and tired of working with female doctors because they didn't want to work. And she said half the nurses were like that too. I remember you saying that. My dad heard my side of the story, and he was like, well, how do you know that's really what it is and it wasn't you just effing up? I'm like, Dad, come on, my professor told me what it was. See, my father had to get him off of that stuff to a certain extent. And he was trying to red pill me before we knew something called the red pill. Portia Kay, we face a lot of barriers when we're dealing with you and human resources. When you all are in positions to make decisions that affect us, you tend to make decisions that are to our disfavor. End of story. We got to go up against white dudes. We got a better shot. Yeah, it's like that. So he homeless. I think he's the perfect fit for the majority of black Western women today. If you really want to know the truth. They should have to lift him the F up out of this, because for the most part, the reason why a lot of sisters ain't in that position is largely because they will do certain, they know. I mean, when I say they, I mean Massa knows that if he wants to make sure that we don't get up, he can use a sister, or he can find a sister willing to make sure that that's what happens, that we don't rise up too much. And a lot of sisters ain't willing to do that. I don't know if it's half of y'all that ain't willing. I don't know if it's 80%. But even if it's as low as 10% that are willing to sell out black men, he can rely on that 10%. And he does, and it works. And that's why it is that even though women are struggling more to keep jobs, you got bros that are homeless more often. He could have become a homosexual. We know that would have been easy. All he would have had to do was put all of his energy and potential and talent into stroking it right. And he could have been a homosexual, going from couch to couch, really from vagina to vagina. He's not even trying to do that. He should, but he's not. Because frankly, those of you who talk like you do without listening don't deserve any further mucking better in the first place. And that's real. They got a lot of sisters out here that at least try to hear men out. And you make them look bad. You might say, well, was I supposed to sit there and just let him bash black women? He didn't bash them. And he didn't say he wasn't going to date them anymore. I'm telling you that I'm the man, Portia Kay, that's telling black men, if you got anything to your name, do not approach a Western black woman ever. Period. Don't approach them. They should be coming to you even if you're homeless or living in your mother's basement. Because that's how bad they treat you. And the ones that don't do so, well, they're in such good hiding, you're just not going to meet them anyway, so you can't really walk past one and assume she's going to be one of the better ones. That's how bad it is for bros out there, Portia Kay. Don't go in on him. He's giving you a warning. You can fix it if you listen to him. You listen to me, it's too further mucking late. I don't think most sisters in America should have any options better than a man who's homeless. And let's be honest, some of y'all go looking for that anyway so you can control him. No, what I'm saying is you should have no option better than a man that's homeless that still tells you what to do. Because frankly, most of you all do turn around and you demand so much in exchange for so little. Now, Mr. Diesel, I do hope you're able to get yourself out of there. But in all honesty, man, America's not it, bro. I mean, it ain't been it since I left. It ain't been it since before I left. And I can't say that there's any magical place where a brother man can simply have a good work ethic and then his life takes off. I really can't say that. But I can say that in the States, man, I know it's bad, bro. And you in DC too, when it gets cold, it gets cold. And when it gets hot, it gets hot. It's like it just sucks all around. If you're going to be homeless, man, honestly, bro, I think maybe one of the U.S. territories is better. Maybe, at least during the winter. But if you can fit the guck out the States, man, yeah, I say go for it. I really do. If you're well educated and polished and you can write correctly, punctuate correctly, and not make spelling errors between homophones and English, somewhere down the line you can do better than what you're doing in the States. Matter of fact, if you ain't got no kids, you can afford to take a teaching job in somewhere like Indonesia. I mean, I'm saying that because that's one of the places where you don't get paid much, but you'd be able to afford that because you'd still be able to save because you don't have any children. I got kids. I got 3, so I got to make a certain amount. But that's how bad it gets, man. And I'm going to tell you, even if you went to Indonesia right now, bro, not even Malaysia, but Indonesia right now, you probably make between $1,500 to $2,000 a month, but you be doing great. You be doing fine over there. And you decide you want to get married. They got Christian Indonesians if you're not Muslim, and they'll be looking for somebody too. Here you are, educated and black and heterosexual and a nice guy, well polished. Yeah, you right up a lot of their alleys. Because a lot of Southeast Asian women actually prefer brothers. Actually do. And that's real, man. It's like that. And I hope you're able to find that, man. Really do. I'm going to tell y'all straight, sisters. The ones that you got something to say when a black man says this is what black women are doing. When he talks about black women that have caused trouble and you're not one of them, all you got to do is fuck the shuck up, not say nothing. Because we're not going to assume passing you by on the street that you're part of the problem. We just can't assume that you're one of these great exceptions either. And that's one of the things I've been trying to get through. Just be thick skull. You know who you are. I'm seeing you too. When it comes to the golden sphere, for the women, you one of the examples that's jacked up with your little double standards. You part the problem. And I say this because about half the ladies I know about in the golden sphere, they want to break away from Black America. I guess maybe they feel they have to for safety reasons. I'm up here championing your right to not be mistreated. But by the same token, you start telling us, men, that we need to build a community for you, but you're going to come in with the same old dysfunction that any other black woman would have come in with no mixture. Or with a mixture, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be better as an option for the men with whom you want, actually, whom you want to build a community for you. You will be no better an option than the women that mistreated you. And you sitting up here looking at us like we owe y'all. Man, get the yuck out my face with that sure bit. It's the exact same furthermucking thing. That's why even though I'm willing to attack your attackers, if it's based on shade and phenotype, which are not in your control, I can't sit up here and say, okay, I'm going to jump in and say, yes, we need another category. I think Caesar Cannon's doing you a favor you don't deserve for the most part. And to the other half of the ladies in the golden sphere that actually are willing to better treat the men, like I think Julie Jules is one who has such intentions, to be honest with you, I feel bad for y'all because you still don't see the difference between you and the ones that won't. To a certain extent, there's a brainwashing that's still latent in you. And it jumps out again. It could cause you to run your men off, even if you didn't start off with that intention. Do not fall victim to that. I'm gonna say this, whether you're a light-skinned, mixed, 100% black, if you believe that we're all black under the one drop rule, or if you don't, whatever the case is, to women of black blood, any amount, in the West, Canada, the U.S., any other first world nation that's English speaking, understand this, because I rarely address y'all, but I'm gonna do it this time. Until you get over that Lois Lane superplan syndrome, we're going to have the same problem, or you will have it. And that is a syndrome that tells you that you as you are good enough, but men got to prove themselves and can't be good enough as they are. No. Either we're both good enough for each other as we are starting out the gate, or we got to develop ourselves. And there's no reason that a man should have to fly and be bulletproof and all this other furthermucking stuff. If you just a regular run-of-the-mill person, bleeds 5 times a month, and you don't even show an adult intellect at the end of the day. See, we can... As men my age, we can live without women. And there are times we do. I don't like it. I'll tell you straight, I don't like it. But on the real, we can do it. My age, testosterone goes down, so even that normal worry, hell, mine, I think mine may have started dropping in my 20s. Because I was just used to being alone. Even when I got married in the United States, it was like the worst of both, and I got used to living alone again. There are times even now I got to explain to my wife, I'm not off in my office by myself because I don't love you. It's just training and habit. I've been alone for so long. That's all that is. I don't mean you any harm. I forget sometimes how long I'm in there doing my own stuff with YouTube and with the reports we got to do for teaching. I really don't know that maybe I've been in there for 2 hours without teaching a class. I don't know that because I've been alone for so long. That's the truth of the matter. It's a lot of brothers that go through that. So we can get used to being by ourselves. It gets easier. And you might be talking about who's going to take care of you when you're old. Come on, you really think we can expect modern day Western women to look after us when we're old and go back to the stages of children? You really think that's the case? We've seen the character traits that most Western women have, black, white, or any mixture there in between. They're not taking care, they don't want to take care of their own kids half the time. And they want to blame the men. We're dealing with a lot. And this is why I say, y'all step the F off of Brian Diesel. The only one that got on this case right now was you, Portia Kay, but y'all stay the hell up off his case. He didn't write you all off like I did. Brian Diesel, I'm telling you, write them off. I'm not saying hurt them. I'm just saying don't ever approach a black Western woman again, or a white Western woman for that matter. Lead him be. And if you find some third category and they got that Western attitude, don't approach them either. If you're homeless, but especially if you have something, you shouldn't do it, because that's exactly what the F they don't deserve. They fought to get into positions in which they can decide that you're not going to stay at the shelter for that night, even when they have room, just in case a lady comes along and needs that room. They fought to get into positions like that, to hold you back. Do not give them any pipe, and don't give them a penny. Thank you for listening. Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout, Assalamu Alaikum, and Black Heterosexual Homeless Non-Select Male Power, just because you B-words don't like it, and Black Patriarchy until extinction or Judgment Day. And no, when I say B-words, I'm not talking about women that aren't part of the problem. So don't come at me for that. If you say one fucking thing about me calling the problematic ladies the B-word, I'm going to assume that you're one of them.